The Republicans have been using a lot of misinformation to kind of scare people and inflame popular passions against DACA. And these kids, what's some of the most egregious misinformation that you would like to correct?
I mean, Jeff Sessions, his speech was so unbelievable to me. I mean, he talked about how DACA actually makes the country more unsafe and how DACA, puts us at risk of terrorism, and said that it was almost like an act of compassion that he was rescinding DACA. It was just so unbelievable.
Has there ever been a case of any DACA individual being linked to terror in any way?
No, I mean, not that I'm aware of. I've never heard of such a thing. But that's just sort of a very popular narrative from the Trump administration. There is the constant conflating of immigration and terrorism, or immigration and the murdering of American citizens. This is just what they do. It's the narrative that they trot out every time they discuss immigration.
And it's basically just the narrative of white supremacy.
Yeah.
Repackaged with an immigration video. They're coming for your women.
Right. It is the same thing. It's exactly the same thing, which is also why I think Trump talks so much about Kate's Law, and he picks these very particular cases in which an undocumented immigrant murdered, in this case, a white woman in particular, and sort of plants these seeds that immigrants cannot be trusted and that they are harmful and that they're inherently violent and dangerous. And while Sessions didn't get into the kind of bloody language that Trump often uses, or even that Sessions has used in the past, it's clear that that's what it was, just this constant hammering away of the point that any immigrants, no matter who they are or where they're from, are bad for the United States, and they endanger American citizens, whether by, shooting them in the streets or by taking their jobs.
What can be done in terms of pushing back against this?
I mean, there are endless studies now, that prove that this narrative isn't true, that undocumented immigrants and immigrants in general are fearful of any interactions with law enforcement, to the point where when bad things happen to them, which often do, because when you don't have any status in a country, you're consistently exploited and not paid money that you're supposed to, or abused at work, they are so fearful of law enforcement and getting on their radar that they don't even report crimes that are being committed against them by American citizens. And so the
crime rate amongst immigrants themselves is lower, even conservatives agree, than the population at large.
Yes. So, immigrants commit fewer crimes than American citizens. And I know that some people think of that as fake news, but it simply just is, and by deputizing local law enforcement, as they try to do in SB4, to basically act as immigration officials, or by sort of creating these very scary environments for undocumented people to live in, where they feel like they're being hunted and targeted, and all of this rhetoric is around. It's not beneficial to anyone to ever push those narratives. And if you have to, if that's what's being discussed, then you can sort of, rely on those studies that show that immigrants aren't committing crimes at the levels that Trump says, that, and also that this narrative that these are the populations of people, these criminals that he is targeting in these raids, that they're violent criminals. I mean, if you actually look at the numbers, they're not. They don't have criminal records. And what often happens is ICE will go to a place where there are a lot of undocumented immigrants seeking one person who has a criminal record, and then they will detain everyone in the area who does not have authorization to be in the United States. And then it all gets labeled as, ICE apprehended 100 criminal aliens. And the other thing to point out is that people have felonies. So he refers to them as felons as well. If you lived in the United States and you were deported, you built a life in the United States, perhaps you have children and family here, and you're deported and you come back to the United States to be with your family and reunite with your family, and then you get detained by ICE again, you're a felon. So that's another easy way to call people criminals and felons.